Howdy, Chunky. What a 24 hours that was. We'll just pad for a few seconds to get through the shenanigans of the algorithms so we don't end up totally shadow banned. And hopefully at least 3 people and a sheep might watch this video. Coming up next, I'm going to tell you what's happened with probation in the last couple of days in light of what happened with Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor. I think we can see the wood for the trees now, can't we? Asked Lucy Conley. It's been the most extraordinary few weeks of news where I just scratch my head and I wonder, am I in a dream? Is this just some dystopian nightmare that I am imagining in my mind's eye that will one day just be a Netflix special that I'm reading in real time? My book is out, by the way, in a couple of weeks. It's still not banned. It's a miracle, but they will, because they asked me today, am I likely to say things in the book like I did in the YouTube video earlier in the week at Fossway? And the answer is yes, and a lot worse. That goes into great detail about all of the corruption and dodgy dealings that go on at HMP. You can get it now for pre-order. It'll be sent out in the next couple of weeks. If you buy that and the autobiography, it's the same postage, by the way, so you save £5 or £6. And if you come to alexbelfield.com, we beg of you to join us for the news in the morning, 30 minutes of not PC, no BS, and Ofcom free news with the phone in Wednesday and Sunday nights. Right, I think we've got through the worst of it. Do subscribe here. It really helps. Comment, like, share, and join us now for my latest revelation on what probation are going to do now to shut me up and throw me back in prison. Go!
Don't trust the mainstream media. They'll make your teeth itch. Alex Belfield's voice of reason.
Hello, Chunky. It's the voice of reason. My name's Alex Belfield, and the only defence I've got to the sabotage and the conspiracy that I am facing is to tell you the truth ahead of what they might do next. This morning I had a visit from my 2 probation people who were sent by the Mapper Mafia. I'm Mapper 2 Level 3, the highest possible level national risk at 0.17% on their official Oasis document. They have put me back up to high risk. They tried to convince me, by the way, that I was always high risk. Well, no, they told me I was down to medium again, which I was originally, until they put it up when I left to be able to get away with all this absolute dystopian disgrace. So what happened this week was I made my way to HMP Fossway to make a video about the disgusting treatment of prisoners there, their outrageous staff, 4 of which have been arrested. That's just this month, for being corrupt and selling drugs, and also the suicide of one of their members of staff, an officer, and the near murder of another one of their inmates. I'd seen with my own eyes, and as the head of neurodiversity for Fossway for nearly a year, I've documented in book 6 how so many vulnerable people are being mistreated, especially the nonces who have no protection, because Boris Johnson thought it was a great idea to create a super prison where these 2 people meet, professional criminals and those perverts who should never, ever be allowed anywhere near people who actually have a sense of pride, despite being a convicted criminal. So this morning they arrived to tell me that I nearly went back to prison this week. Nearly. And I said, well, you can't be nearly pregnant. You can't be half up the duff. You either are or you're not. Well, you nearly were. I said, well, did I break the law? And they said, no. I said, so you know that I'm allowed to go on public land to film? Yes, they said. So I said, well, where is the breach? Where is the breach of my license conditions? Oh, they said, you could have caused a riot if somebody had have seen your video within the prison. I said, well, if I'd have flown Concorde, I could have got to New York in 2.5 hours, but I didn't do that either. And what we see that is going on, that I have endured for 5 years since they first came to arrest me and smashed down my door and then no further action did 4 hours later, with the illegal coppers who took their lapels off and didn't have a warrant, that happened 3 times, is that I am being judged by things that haven't yet happened. And this is a new phenomena that everybody on the right seems to be facing, which is completely different to what is going on the left, where people like Ricky Jones can say that he thinks that slitting throats is fine for people like me, I presume, people he doesn't like who are politically opposed because he's a Labour councillor and I'm not. I'd rather be dead than be a Labour councillor. He gets off and has his case cleared and he is found not guilty. Do you think I'd have been found not guilty if I'd have said that about someone on the left? This is undeniable and laughable. But I want you to know what's going on. They are bullying and intimidating me not to be a journalist, which Judge Saini, in his defence, the only good thing this judge did on the very first day was say, I am a journalist. And I have been since about 1997 when I first started. And as you can read in my autobiography, which is out now, by the way, if you buy this and the new prison book, the postage is the same. So you'll get basically £6 off if you buy them both together. That will be out soon. I am amazed they haven't banned it already. They asked me today, will you be saying the same things in the prison books that you said on air? Yes, I fucking will. You haven't seen anything yet. But what they forget is the clock is ticking. And I told them, send me back to prison. Nothing will sell books like me going back to prison to prove how corrupt you are, having admitted I haven't broke the law. That's the key point. They said license conditions work by a different standard. I said, so has my risk increased? And they said, no, because nothing's happened. What I want you to know is I've got in my diaries, in my books, 4 HMP books, I've got proof of 20 different probation liars who tried to convince me if I did this, I would get home to DCAT, which I was entitled to do. We know that now because I was a less than 1% risk on a non-violent, non-sexual, non-drugs related crime. But instead, they kept moving me around prisons every time I tried to sue them at judicial review. Now, why has all this happened now? Because I filed a judicial review with the one person who can't be snake-like and weasel-like and get out of it, which is the Lord Chancellor. That is a position, not a person. Currently, it happens to be Miss Shamima Shamima Mahood, who's in a very bad mood, as she said she's now got to get her people to reply by the 19th of August. That's in writing. But they're fucked because all their lies are now documented. From the door being kicked in with no lapels to them overcoming bail. We've done all this before. You know all of the stories because I've been public from day one. But here's what's staggering. The BBC are refusing to give me any personal data because they say it might affect the victims. But I believe it's protecting the victims. I believe my private data will prove that this is an absolute witch hunt, bearing in mind the BBC gave the entire file to the police and CPS, who then prosecuted on their behalf, which if you read the Human Rights Act is also illegal. 2 government bodies conspiring to put somebody in prison is not legal. Even in this 1984 dystopian nightmare that we're living in, it's not legal. All of the CCTV from all of the incidents I've requested have all been unavailable. And a sexual assault that happened at HMP Exosé, and by the way, the book, which will be out next, well, it'll be out sort of spring next year, is called A Sure Wank Redemption. Now, they were so desperate to get rid of me when we filed a judicial review against them, they actually drove me in a fucking car to the next prison. That's how much of a risk I am. So they're desperate now to get me back in jail to shut me up. They've 2 options. They either put me in jail or pay me not to be on air. We already know they've cancelled my tour because they don't want standing ovations and me getting selfies, so they're paying all my costs. That's what they offered, and they haven't told me different. They've got all my costs and my losses, and they say they're going to pay it. You're going to pay it. It's disgraceful. I want to do my tour. I should be out doing it right now. 30-odd grand's worth of tickets. All over the country. So I just want you to know what's going on. They haven't picked on one video I've made in 9 weeks, other than the one that was about them. They don't care. I've talked about disgraced councillors, I've talked about MPs, I've talked about police. They're only interested in themselves because they are an absolute corrupt and crooked monolith that only thrives, that only survives on intimidation and bullying, and that's what they're doing. And they keep lying to my face, and they think I'm stupid. Well, keep laughing. The clock is ticking. Whether I'm here talking to you or back in prison, I'll write another 7 books. I couldn't give 2 fucks. Put me back in prison for talking. My risk is 0.17%. You can't kid me that I'm a risk to anyone. And I never was. That's why these people, the very same people, probation, in the pre-sentencing report said I shouldn't go to prison. It's only because of the 2-tier bullshit of this country that they wanted me off the air because I was rising so exponentially. So there you go. That's the update. You nearly went to prison this week, and they've written to me. Nearly. How do you nearly go to prison? I've either broken the rules or I haven't. And they admit I was fully entitled to record on a public road. They can't do fuck all about it. But they then say, this was the greatest thing. They said that I could have caused a risk to the family of the man who killed himself in the prison. What? He's dead. Oh, well, it could have been distressing for the family. Well, that's what news is. Do you not think the 6 o'clock news is distressing to people in Gaza or Ukraine? Do you not think the daughters of Hugh Edwards were distressed and alarmed when they found out their father was a convicted paedophile? PDF file? Oh no, he's at home fine. Nobody's telling him you're about to go to prison. He paid to watch children being stopped. Paid. And is at home. Just remember that. I use words that were non-violent. There was no accusation of fear of violence in any of mine. 2 of mine were without fear, alarm and distress. All of the people I'd had no physical contact with, 3 of which I didn't know and had never heard of or spoke to. Court records prove it. So for all the whoop-de-doo and the noise, just remember where we're at. This week we found out that they intended on putting me in a BCAT in isolation for 23 and a half hours a day from the beginning. They couldn't because I didn't put a foot wrong because I was super enhanced. They never would have allowed me to go to DCAT, which is a total breach of prison law, PSI. So they've got to face that. And then the hundreds of other things they've done. I still don't have my letters. I still don't have my equipment back. The original phone and laptop are still with the police. Where are they? Why? What is it about this police force and this government and the MOJ and the Home Office? Remember what Andrew Bridgen told you at the weekend? He phoned Priti Patel and said, what about Belfield? And she said, keep out of it. She didn't say, who is he? She said, keep out of it. So there's your update. They're going to throw me back in prison nearly. Wow. Get the books before they're banned, because they're going to do that next. They're bound to. And I suspect they're going to ban me from doing this. And have to pay me because I've done nothing wrong. If I'd committed a crime or breached a license condition, they'd have every right. But I'm protected, whether they like it or not, by Human Rights Article 10, free speech. We nearly put you back in prison. Can you imagine a country where you tell a man who's less than a 1% risk, who's never hurt a fly, never touched anyone, you're going to go back to prison if you don't behave? We're warning you. They said that. This is a warning. They've been sent to come round my house to threaten me to shut the fuck up. That's the country we're living in. Rant over. Now you know, if I disappear, please remember this video. Please share it wide. Please like and subscribe. Please remember that if I disappear, you know what's happened. Nothing, fuck all, other than me doing journalism for which I'm entitled. And for the record, I think it is absolutely brilliant investigative journalism, and I thank my whistleblowers for the information that there were 4 officers arrested for drug dealing. I know it's embarrassing. Well, how about you have better training for your staff? You laugh at reform when they get some imbecile working for them. What about the hundreds of staff who keep being sacked, suspended or arrested for corruption across HMP every year? Hundreds. And they're all in the books. alexbelfield.com. And to the hundreds of people who have already pre-ordered book 3, which is HMP Stockton and Lincoln, that will be on the way in the next couple of weeks. We signed off the book cover yesterday. I will never give in. I will never stop, because why? I spent 2.9 years in prison for words when Ricky Jones, who threatened, and I don't care what any jury says, it is a threat to say slit throats. It is a threat. If certainly if you're conflating what I did, which was not threatening and violent, because that wasn't the charge. I was never charged with fear of violence. How could you give me 5.5 years and he's given a handshake and told to go and live his life? Because he's a Labour councillor and I'm not. I'm some gobshite from a pit estate. That's the truth. Where I'm talking to you from now. You nearly ended up back in prison. Oh, go fuck yourselves. Nearly. Bullies, liars, cheats, intimidators do not bother me. Put me back. I don't care. And you know damn well, if they could, they would. They admitted I did nothing wrong. They just want to scare me into silence. That's your country. Don't think about me. There are people watching this now who hate me. There's probably victims who pay to sign into my website watching this. But just remember, it could be you, it could be your neighbor, it could be your cousin, your uncle, your mother, your father, it could be anyone. There's many of us now. Ask Lucy Conley. There's many of us who have paid the price of two-tier justice. Right, I'm going to go. Do you like my new jacket, by the way? It's very nice. I thought it was prison-esque. You can get my merch at alexbelfield.com if you like, the polo shirts, the t-shirts, the jackets. They're all available there along with the books. And, of course, the Undisputed National Treasure mug and the new Doddy mug too. Ban them like they did the ugly mug. They banned the ugly mug. Why? Not because it broke any license conditions, because the police... They had training from Rachel Reeves. You hurt my feelings. You made it... Did any of the victims complain? No. Welcome to North Korea, my friends. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. The phone-in's back. Sunday night from 9, Wednesday night from 9, and the news every morning. It's 30 to 40 minutes of me just doing all the stuff you can't do here. We're not PC. Oh, no. And there's no BS. Oh, no. And we're Ofcom free. Kisherman took us. I don't like bullies, and I don't like cheats, and I don't like liars. And I seem to be surrounded by them. Right, have a wonderful weekend. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Anyway, that's not why you called.
Did you hear that? That was the voice of fucking reason, wasn't it?
Box takers, dinghy divers, and lefties. This ain't for you. Alex Belfield's voice of reason.